You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This episode is sponsored by Ingram Micro Security. Strengthen your security practice. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and my guests today are Eric Kohl, the Vice President of Networking and Security Business Unit at Ingram Micro, and Paul Barbosa, the Cybersecurity Senior Sales Director of U.S. Commercial at Cisco. Welcome, Eric and Paul. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having us. This is Eric. Appreciate the time today and looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure. Glad to be here.
Eric, I want to start with you. Cybersecurity Awareness Month is coming up as it does every October. And this year's theme is Do Your Part, #Be Cybersmart. And the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month emphasizes if you connect it, protect it. What do each of these sayings mean, and how should businesses and consumers be maybe a little bit more aware in a different way this month in the year of 2020 when it comes to cybersecurity?
Great question. I'll take the approach of answering a few of those in chunks, if you will, because obviously October 2020 is different than any October we've had in recent memory, being in the midst of COVID-19, and everything's different. And it certainly has an impact on how we think about cybersecurity, how we think about Cybersecurity Awareness Month, both personally and professionally. First of all, I think Cybersecurity Awareness Month should be every month, but, always thrilled to, rise to the occasion for October. It's a known fact that cyber attacks have been on the rise since COVID hit. And so that's something that we have to be conscious of, really since the world tilted off of its axis in the US in mid and late March. Phishing attacks are skyrocketing, and frankly, COVID-19 is the new phishing lure. And they've been using that to go after just about everything. And then when you think about, the world we live in now, I would argue that there's more online users with more frequency, spending more time online than ever before. I know both of my kids are in the house right now as an example. They're going to school from home. They're on their PCs, more than ever. And that makes them susceptible to cyber risks. Obviously, from a work perspective, not only are we all spending more time on Zoom or team meetings and just more time connected, but there's more distractions. At any time, a student could be barging into my home office, and maybe I'm not being as careful as I should when I'm looking at an email, although I would like to argue I'm pretty careful. So, there's a lot of distractions out there. So for me, being cyber smart just means really to continue to use common sense in your day-to-day life, and it's being practical. Like you can recognize easily when physical junk mail would come to the house, and kind of adopt that when in doubt, throw it out mentality. And that same thing applies, to email, and just being conscious of what to look for, and, these messages that have a sense of urgency about taking some action that just sounds strange. And so trying to apply that same thing in your personal life to email, over 90% of the attacks are originating from email. When in doubt, throw it out and be careful, along those lines. It also means, protecting your passwords, changing your passwords. And from a personal perspective, for me, I'm always changing my banking or any financial institution that I work with. I'm changing passwords, and I'm making sure that I'm using the multi-factor authentication tools. As it relates to if you connect it, protect it, again, it obviously relates to the business world too, but just think about, your use of Amazon Alexa. I know in my house, I've got more Alexa devices hanging off our network than ever before, whether it's smart plugs or Alexa Show, and the damage that could happen with cameras or any of these things if your password gets compromised. So that's something you've got to be mindful of. And so to me, it's a great time to have Cybersecurity Awareness Month, not only to work with our business partners on what they need to be thinking about as they protect their clients, but also from a personal perspective of just using caution and common sense in your everyday life.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just about October. It's definitely something we want to be thinking about every single day. And according to a recent SolarWinds MSP survey, about 60% of MSPs applied for government financial relief programs during the pandemic. And then also 74% received the help they need, and over 80% of respondents have now continued operating at their pre-pandemic staffing levels, which is great to hear. Eric, how are partners growing their MSP business right now?
Fortunately, cybersecurity is virus proof. It's COVID proof. If anything, you need to ramp up your security posture more than ever, just based on the increased frequency and volume of attacks. It's obviously not an area where you can let your guard down or pull back on spend, but so we certainly see, the MSPs we work with increasing their spend and posture across the security category. They've got to look internally first and foremost. We call this protect your own house. Look, it's been publicized. There's been FBI alerts that MSPs are under attack like never before. And the bad guys know that, hey, if I can get into this MSP, I can attack 100 doctors' offices and infiltrate or, get ransomware in there versus going one at a time. And so the MSPs have to protect their own house. But we also saw instances of fraud when everybody, like I mentioned, when the world tilted and everybody had to shift to work from home on a dime in mid-March, we stopped a number of fraudulent orders on behalf of our MSP partners, where, our team, as an example, would see an order for 100 laptops and think, wow, that's interesting. This guy doesn't usually order 100 laptops. We know everybody's kind of working from home, but let's dig into this a little bit. And there's certain characteristics where we uncovered the fact that, hey, our business partner's email was compromised and the bad guys spun up a PO and sent it to us with a shipping address to, an out of business gas station in, podunk land. And we were able to recognize that, help our partner and stop it. So part of it is protecting your own house first and foremost, and then extending that into their clients. So obviously, ransomware continues to be a big problem. So backup and recovery solutions, compliance, and then really looking to add new services, new security services. And that platform approach is really resonating. So I think, Cisco is a prime example, with acquisitions like Duo and alliance partners like Perch to really provide end-to-end cybersecurity solutions. That's kind of the trending that we're seeing from the MSPs that we serve.
Paul, let's talk a little bit from the Cisco side. How did Cisco respond and then strategize in the response to COVID in terms of things like workplace security? And in what ways have MSPs in this situation now, months later from the start of the pandemic, benefited Cisco?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for that question. I mean, the first thing, we had to understand where our customers were and what they needed from us. One thing about our culture, that I've always appreciated is, the lengths that we'll go, for our customers in their time of need. And this pandemic, last early spring, put that aspect of our culture on full display. So the immediate need for us was to support our customers going to a full staff remote work policy. Typically, we see remote access capacity anywhere between 15 to 25% of the total employee count, with a pretty wide variance by vertical. So scaling remote access out quickly, securely, and with the right level of availability, was a Herculean task to overcome overnight. But that was the task that was presented, to our customers. So we focused there first, right? We made expansion licenses for our VPN client, AnyConnect, our virtual firewall, Duo, our cloud security product umbrella, free for existing customers. No PO, no process, a download link for as many licenses as they needed for their rapid expansion. And in many of our customers, I mean, we were talking 24 to 48 hours turnaround time was the expectation from the business. And for new customers, we put in extended free trial licenses. So we didn't want any of the normal corporate processes to inhibit any of our customers from accomplishing the displacement that they needed to. Those products that I talked about, those are really the essential building blocks of a secure remote access architecture. It made it, really possible for our customers to respond to that need in an unprecedented speed and reliability. And I think what, after talking to, scores of CIOs and CISOs, one thing that became very clear was how quickly IT could move when really pressed to accomplish, an objective, without the normal change management controls and oversight that was in place. This was an emergency, right? And I think IT and IT security in particular really shined, right, in light of their business partners. And so that kind of leads me to, where we really benefited, and that's being a partner first. We establish new levels of trust between our MSP partners and our customers, because again, our customers were looking for expedience and they were looking for reliability. And the partnership between Cisco and our MSPs was already strong, but it was on full display, as we helped our customers secure their remote access policies at the time. So now, months later, we're busy solidifying those business continuity plans, building out the long-term architecture. Many of our customers are saying this is, going to be a steady state for the foreseeable future, that a large majority of the workforce will continue to have to work remotely. And with that expansion of the attack surface, solidifying those secure remote work architectures is of the utmost importance.
I want to talk a little bit about threat intelligence and Talos here. What should threat intelligence mean to a customer, and why is it important to apply it correctly and at scale? And then from there, how does Talos fit into the overall Cisco security solution?
Yeah, great question. I mean, threat intelligence, is key. I mean, in any endeavor, of defense, in the, whether it's human intelligence or signals intelligence, the aperture that you're taking in intelligence is the most important aspect of it. And that's where I think Talos has really been a huge benefit, not only for Cisco, but I think the greater community at large. They're the largest non-governmental threat intelligence agency in the world. And so they have a unique perspective in a very wide aperture of threat actors, of techniques, tactics, and procedures. And that's hugely beneficial because of the scope of that threat surface and the inputs that they're taking those in from, right? Everywhere from email to command and control networks to zero-day malware that's able to be detonated in a cloud sandbox. All of that, right, can't be taken as points. They have to be really they have to have a certain level of fidelity applied across them. And that's what a wide aperture really gives Talos the ability to provide, a large scope, right, of intelligence that's run through, several points of filters to get, a conviction, right, correctly the first time. And that's what people can take advantage of. And as it fits into the overall Cisco architecture, it's leveraged in a way that is shared at machine speed across all of our solutions. Intelligence for intelligence sake, is relatively useless unless all points solutions are able to take advantage of it in a timely manner. And that's the real key for us, is to ensure that the work that we do on development of the solutions allows for that threat intelligence to be shared at machine speed across all solutions to take advantage, of that very wide aperture.
And Paul, you were mentioning earlier about how Cisco is very much about being a partner, but it's also about social selling. What does that mean?
I think, like any, the security industry by design, is fragmented, right? The way that we have to build, solutions has been in a manner to have to respond to emerging threats, which means the best security technology for that threat is what gets applied. And so we've had to build, stacks, right, of multi-vendor architecture over, the past 25 years. And so, with that, the signal to noise ratio can be pretty high for a customer. Everything starts to sound the same, right, from a marketing standpoint. And I think, for us, when we think about outcome-based selling, it's really just that, right? Is understanding where a customer is trying to take their security architecture and focusing on the outcome versus the technical control or a set of features. Now, those are vastly important to a customer. But at the end of the day, when we engage, we're really looking for the opportunity to be an anchor vendor, right? And that's really to provide a integrated security solution, again, that shares that threat intelligence at machine speed, but also leverages our traditions, right? And Cisco is a company born on connecting the unconnected. And when we look at control points across an IT architecture, the network still continues to be a lowest common denominator to threat, right? It's any malware is going to have to traverse the network to do any harm. And so we look at, coming from an aspect of leveraging our networking roots and building on that integrated solution stack with a wide threat intelligence aperture, to present an opportunity for us to partner, right, with our MSP partners and our customers to be that anchor vendor.
I love that line, connecting the unconnected. Are you able to share with us a little bit more of Cisco's security portfolio and maybe how it's changed or even become more focused in the past year or so?
Yeah, for sure. We've been focused on building out a platform architecture again, really starting from our roots of networking control devices. And as we started to, look at Cisco's overall mission, to be the number one IT company in the world, we quickly realized we have to be the number one security company in the world. And that can't be accomplished simply by looking down a stovepipe of the network, that there were gaps in the architecture that we needed to either, develop ourselves or acquire. And so you see a history of innovation with our solutions architecture, as well as key acquisitions, one of them being Duo over the last 2 years. And that was really to build out the identity domain within our architecture. And so, in the last year, what we've really been focused on is taking all of that back-end integration work, which isn't trivial. That takes a ton of investment to make disparate solutions all talk to each other via APIs to provide an integrated back-end. What you've seen from us over the last year is take all that back-end integration and put it to the front, right? So that the security operator now has less screens to look at, has less places to go to get quickly to a remediation action. From the time to detect to the time to remediate, we've been trying to compress that paradigm. And the only way to do that is to start putting front-end processes at the hands of the controllers. And so our launch of SecureX over the last 12 months has really been a seminal moment, for the company, where we've taken those years of back-end integration work and we put that to a front end. And we've also really started to focus on orchestration and automation across those disparate solutions to bring about outcomes that are happening automatically in the background, to have, SOC operators and MSPs really be able to focus on that high value manage, detect, and response capability.
And we've talked about SecureX on this show before, and I agree. I think bringing everything into one place is really helpful. And Eric, I want to come back to you because Ingram has done something similar in its own way. Ingram has this great tool called the Security Line Card on their website. Can you share more of what this is and how it can help partners and what it looks like?
Yes, of course, because it's security line card and more. The web address is www.securitylinecard.com. And it's an amazing tool that was put together by a few associates on our Delta Force team. And our Delta Force team is a bunch of cybersecurity professionals that support a number of brands at Ingram Micro. But they come together as a vendor agnostic approach, really to talk about solutions that are trending, new opportunities, new solutions. And it's just a great, amazing team of people. And so they really designed this site, and it's wrapped around the NIST framework. I know that the NIST framework is being more and more widely adopted, and it can get very long and dense, but at the highest level, it's simple enough that I can understand it. And the 5 pillars are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And so the team has mapped out the entire portfolio of Ingram Micro solutions and then subcategories into how they fit into that NIST framework. And so they can have a conversation with a partner on, opportunities for them to expand into other parts of that framework. For example, there's a lot of focus on detection and response. We kind of feel like, hey, we know the bad guys are going to get in. How quickly can we identify it and then respond and protect the assets? They can have that conversation with a partner that may not be able to play in that space. And so that tool really helps there. And, like from a Cisco perspective, obviously they're a big part of our security business in Ingram Micro, and they cover a lot of the solutions that we identify in there, but there are gaps. And so that'll give us the opportunity to say, hey, if Cisco doesn't have a cybersecurity awareness training module, is there an opportunity for us to partner up or look at another partner that does, so we can provide, a more comprehensive cybersecurity solution? So pretty excited about that tool. The team has done an amazing job, and encourage our partners to go out and take a look. www.securitylinecard.com.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, it's beautifully done. It's very well organized and very easy to use. I want to talk about from a broad perspective, and Paul, I'll start with you. Where do you see security going within this next year?
Yeah, it's that's a great question. I think security is definitely headed towards this place where integration comes at the premium, right? And it's the degree of integration across products that are going to present the best advantage, to our cybersecurity practitioners. The control points, cloud, identity, and the network are going to be the future, right? On where we see IT stacks going. And within those, cloud, identity, and networks, the opportunity for bad actors, to really exploit within the seams of those control planes is going to be at an all-time high as people move more and more of their workloads, outside of the company prem. And so, products that present themselves in an integrated fashion or present an opportunity to integrate from an open standpoint, I think is the wave of the future. You'll start to see more automation and orchestration come at a premium as well. And that's simply meaning, what are those routine tasks that, took a ticket to be opened and a practitioner to then go and take action? How many of those can be accomplished automatically, right, through leveraging integration and applying smart orchestration? I truly think that is the wave of the future.
Eric, any follow-up thoughts here on this?
Yeah, what Paul said, in all seriousness, pretty similar. And, back to a point that Paul made earlier, the way we work has changed likely forever. I read a statistic that said pre-COVID, 3% of the US workforce worked from home full-time. And looking ahead to late 2021, that estimate is going to be 34%. So, there is no perimeter. It's changed the way we work. It's changed the way people are going to school. And so there's going to be continued focus on the platform, on endpoint protection, and, certainly shifting spend to detection and response. And you've got to be able to do that with automation. So I agree with Paul's statements, and there's going to be no slowdown in cybersecurity. There's going to be no slowdown in attacks. And so it's an exciting space to be in, and watch how it continues to progress.
Paul, if people want to connect with you or learn more about anything we spoke about, where is the best place to do that?
Oh, well, certainly people can reach out to me over LinkedIn. Also on Twitter, very simple, @Paul Barbosa. I like to keep the conversation, going there on topics of cybersecurity and things, the fun things as well, things that are going on in life in general. But those are definitely two ways to connect.
And Eric, where's the best place to connect and learn more about everything you spoke about today?
Yeah, so connect with me personally on LinkedIn. And then, certainly the Security Line Card site has, all of the collateral about our security practice, how to get in touch with somebody that can help. So it's a great site that kind of pulls it all together for us.
Well, thank you both, Paul and Eric, for being here and sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks, Paul and the Cisco team, for your partnership. Really appreciate it.
If you like this episode or have a question, join the discussion on Twitter @Ingram TechSol with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, hosted by Carrie Roberts. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro Security. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production by Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today in your favorite podcast platform.